live.
Hello, we're live again. At least two of us are live. This is the Website 101 podcast, Lunch Bytes. Sean's not here.
No.
We're not sure why he's not here, but I kind of have an idea. I think he's about to go on vacation, and he's.
Yeah, there's always last minute running around to do before a trip that no matter how prepared you are, and I don't even know when he's leaving, but.
I know that he's supposed to be seeing a mutual friend of ours in the UK. We shouldn't be talking about his vacation, I guess, but in a couple of days. So maybe he's, I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think that in general you prep more for overseas trips, or are they all equivalent, do you think?
Wow, that's a good ask. I would say, but they're probably equal. For me, I've only been overseas like once, so twice.
That's it.
Yeah, and once was with when my kid was really young, so that was a lot of prepping.
Yeah, no, traveling with a kid does take a lot. I just overpack for everything. Yeah. Constantly, everything, all the time, overpack. Andrew's so funny. He's like, you should just, pack your Monday clothes together and then pack your Tuesday clothes together. And it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
There's weather, there's mood, there's.
Right. You can't plan that.
Can't do that
in advance.
No.
I used to do this thing where I would always pack a nice pair of shoes in case when I go there, someone dies and I need to go to a funeral. Have you ever heard of that? I once heard that other people do that sometimes. It's just like a weird little psychological problem. It's not healthy, of course.
No, well, I think there's worse psychological things you can do. You know what kills me is that when you watch like those old black and white movies from the 40s or whatever, and the ladies and even the guys are like getting on the old locomotive train to take them to their destination, and they're carrying like just one suitcase that's about this size, and they're carrying it with like no problem. And then for the rest of the movie, it's like every scene they're in like a different outfit, and the hair and the makeup and the shoes. Like you take a pair of running shoes and a pair of sandals, and it's like it's taking up half of my bag.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. And shoes is the worst. Like even for this trip where I am now, we were here for a long time, and I took, 4 pairs of shoes, and I felt so stupid. Like, is this?
Have you used them all though?
I have used them all, yes.
Including your funeral shoes? Including your funeral shoes?
No, sorry, I don't do that one anymore. No, and no, I haven't had the need for that. Hopefully, I don't, because I don't have shoes for it.
I don't, because that's the biggest problem. I don't want anyone to die, because I'll miss them. I just don't have the shoes with me.
For that, I'm not prepared. All right, so what? This has been when was our last lunch bite? You remember?
We haven't been good at being consistent. I think that the last one was not the beginning of August, but I think maybe the middle of July. I think the middle of July, and I think I might have done it by myself.
Yeah. We that's right. We skipped the last one, and then you were on, and now Sean's on this one, so pick up the.
We have to start getting. I feel like in the fall, it's like I've still got this holdover from when I was in school, that it's like the summer is fun. I'm totally slacking off, completely unmotivated, not getting nearly as much done as I should. And it's like September is when I'm going to buckle down and get back into it. And it's like, it's like I can smell new textbooks opening, and I want to go buy a ruler. And it's like, for whatever reason, September is when, screw New Year's resolutions. It's September. That's when I get my shit done.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. And we were intending to do these live things over the summer break when we're not doing the podcast, because we'll be going back to it probably in September as well. So it's apparently quite tough to do this, but
it is. We got to start planning for the podcast. I have been so lazy about putting up YouTube videos all summer. It turns out that video editing is not Amanda's favorite thing to do.
Well,
so I gotta get on that.
I have news for you, because the second I logged into Riverside, which is the tool we're using for this, I got a little ad that said Riverside now has a new feature called Magic Clips. And it's, I'll read it right now. It says, create short form clips with a single click and some help from AI. Size them, style them, and share them. You can't go wrong. Only grow bigger. That's a weird slogan, but anyway, it's
Well, only your
basically,
podcast growing bigger, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. But like when we do this, after we do it, it'll have a recording. You can click a button. It will find what it thinks are good clips in this thing, make them, and then you can resize them and spit them out for social media. So it does it itself.
GTFO.
Yeah.
That's
So it sounds
awesome.
like the thing you didn't want to be doing and find a lot of that you don't have time for anyway. Maybe it'll help us, right?
AI for the win.
AI
That's
is
awesome.
making our lives better until it takes over our lives.
Yeah, but they can. AI will never have our banter. So I think we're
Although I
okay
did
there.
consider one of these days doing my voice. You can train it to have your voice or whatever, because we've got all these podcasts. I could train it on that and
Yeah.
have it have an artificial version of me doing this sometime just to see how it goes. Haven't done that yet. Or have I? Maybe this isn't the way.
Maybe you are the
Things.
future.
Yeah. Anyway, that's cool, right? We'll try that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'll for sure look into that because just I'm not. Yeah, I'm not like I'm not like the visual creative. So the idea, and I'm because with Seneca I get like the full Adobe Creative Suite. So it was like, oh, I'll just try using Premiere, to like put the videos together, and it's like it's just such a I get into it, and it's like I'm like only seeing trees, not the forest, and then I get halfway through and it's like, screw this, I don't want to. And then the second half of the video is just like the same view all the way through. I just couldn't be bothered anymore.
Well, I appreciate what you've been doing thus far, and hopefully this will make your job easier when you do
Thank
that.
you. I would like that a lot. I'm for sure going to check that out. Thanks for the hot tip.
Yeah, maybe any of us, I guess. It doesn't have to be you. Could just go in and click that button and I don't know, whatever. But
I feel like we've all taken our different tasks.
Yeah,
and especially if it's now easier that it's just clicking a button, I am not giving that up.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, this brings me to one of the things I wanted to bring up today, which was, so I visited with some friends of mine in this location where I currently am, which is not my regular place. And I was out with a friend of mine and we were talking about something I don't even remember. Well, we were talking about TikTok, because he's a fan of TikTok. And I don't use basically any social media pretty much these days. And once in a while I fire up TikTok just to see what's going on there. And I find it really difficult to, like, I know it teaches itself what you like by what you watch, right? So that something comes up that some scantily clad girl installing a shelf or something, and I'm like, no, and I quickly try to skip it so it doesn't think I want more of that. I don't want more of that, or whatever. So I find it very frustrating. But this friend of mine uses it, and we were talking about how he uses it to discover new music. Apparently that's a big thing. Apparently a lot of young people use TikTok the way we would use Google, which like, I want to know how to cut a grapefruit. They would search TikTok and find all these videos. I can see it would work for that, but I don't know how, I want to learn about the Industrial Revolution. What's TikTok going to tell you about that? Maybe I'm missing something, but.
Well, but how many youths are searching for information on the Industrial Revolution?
So is that what we're to conclude then? Is that the people that are using TikTok have no depth of they're only interested in superficial stuff?
No, I wouldn't say depth, but maybe they're using the TikTok to search for life hacks, life skills.
Yeah, and it's damn good for that. I'll tell you that. I know.
Yeah, but then
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, but then you're stuck with all of your TikTok feed is just gonna be grapefruit after that search.
Well,
I don't know.
This is the thing. When I was using it once in a while, it would show. I looked up knots, right?
Yeah.
Like tying knots. I think that's cool. I don't know how to tie knots, but I know it's like a Boy Scouty thing, and you can learn to do all these cool knots. So I watched a few of those videos. Now it's nothing but knots in my feed there.
Yeah.
I remember I learned that nail clippers have a lock function. Did you know that? nail clippers.
No.
So regular nail clippers, right? If you know how when you close them, you fold it like that
Yeah, yeah.
backwards and it's flat.
Yeah.
If you push on when it's in that position, push on the top lever and then slide upward toward the biting part, it locks
Oh,
closed. Like it
I had no
closes and
idea.
locks. It's super interesting. And every pair of those things does that. And I had no idea. And anyway,
Yeah,
that's what I learned on TikTok. Anyway, getting back
definitely
to my
today I learned.
point here, my friend in our conversation, and again, I don't know the context of specifically what we're talking about, but at one point he just happened to say, because nobody uses websites anymore. And we just kept going about learning music and whatever through
Yeah.
TikTok and social media. And it stuck with me. I was like, wow, nobody uses websites anymore because of course, our jobs involve
Yeah.
building websites. That's literally what we do for a living. So, and too bad Sean's not here, but I'm wondering what your thoughts on that. Like, obviously, the examples we just gave about social
Mhm.
media, TikTok, and everything else is like a new version of how people use the web. But
Yeah.
you think
Well, I
that's
think
true
that
to any
I'm
extent?
so I think it depends on the
Yeah.
content that you're looking for, right? If you're looking for how to um, use nail clippers safer, I mean, yeah, you don't want to have to like read through a paragraph and a half before you can get to our top four tips. You
Yeah.
know, if you're looking like, how do I remember a few years ago, the big thing was, I've forgotten the word. It's like this fruit that you got to rip it open and it's got like all the little red seeds inside.
Yeah. I forget.
Pomegranate?
Pomegranate. There you go.
There.
Yeah.
And so it was always like, how can I like open a pomegranate? So it's like, absolutely TikTok, because before TikTok, you know, you would Google it and it was like all of the YouTube videos would be first. And so you
Yeah.
would like, I don't want to sit through like a 5-minute video with an intro and when you first had a pomegranate and how it's like changed your life. And this is how you like, just show me like the 30-second clip
Yeah.
on how to get to the stuff inside. So for sure that I can see, yes, TikTok is definitely going to take over, but it's like, especially like some of our clients, some of the corporate clients, some of the nonprofit clients, I cannot imagine like a CEO or a marketing executive, you know, just having all of their content on TikTok. This is what our company can do for you, and with a
Yeah.
little dance to it or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
like,
And it's also, yeah, you're right that it's like corporate stuff and nonprofit stuff. Like at a certain point, there's an audience that's seeking certain information that I think could best find it that way. Like,
yeah,
if like I'm building a site for a nonprofit right now, and it's like, you know, they have very targeted audiences with a particular condition, and
mhm,
they need to know things about the condition, what this organization does for them and for the community and all the rest of it.
yeah,
And it just seems like having their own home on the web is the way to do that. Now, I've talked before about how a lot of businesses here where I am, this Facebook is the internet for them. So like you
mm,
could look up, on Google, if you look some contractor or whatever, and it says whatever their hours and so on, and then it says website, and you can click
yeah.
that to go. In very many cases, you click website, it goes straight to their Facebook page, and asks you to log in with Facebook, which drives me up the wall. But
Yes, but if a small business doesn't want to pay to have a website made, if
mm-hmm.
it's this is, you know, stereo, it's not stereotypical, generalizing, but it's like
Yeah,
if it's a handyman or, you know, somebody who's doing odd jobs and they don't want to
yeah,
like do like the whole technical website or whatever, then lots of people are on Facebook, so it makes sense. But then exactly to your point, it's like maybe it's a generational thing that the youths are going to TikTok.
yeah,
That, you know, maybe in another 20 years, you know, when hopefully we are not working anymore,
yeah,
you know, maybe something else will take over, you know, websites. But all I keep thinking of is like TikTok was the thing. Well, guess what? Snapchat was the thing. Well, guess
yeah,
what? Twitter was the thing. Well, guess what? Facebook was the thing. Well, guess what? Instagram was a thing. Now there's Threads. Now there's, you
yeah,
know, Twitter is now X. It's like things are always constantly evolving and changing, and social platforms are, you know, in vogue, and only grandparents are using it. So it's, I think it's hard. Like You're just like the LPs coming back in style. The website is always going to be around.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, a good point about like a good thing to note around all this is the whole big thing going on between Meta and the news, right? Here
Hmm.
in Canada, for our listeners who are not in Canada, or viewers are not in
Yeah.
Canada, uh, because the government complained that they weren't getting enough money, I guess, from Meta, who owns Facebook, about, they're sharing all this news. So people are going to Facebook to get their news, and yet Facebook's not giving the news corporations a kickback. I think that's the issue. They said no more doing this. You
I
have to
don't. I
pay
don't.
us.
I don't think anyone's used the term kickback, but yeah, that's what it is basically.
Let's be honest, yeah. And they
Yeah.
said, you got to pay us. And Facebook sort of flexed their muscles and said, okay, no more news in Canada. So currently, from what I understand, again, I'm not on Facebook, but from what I understand, if you try to go to Facebook to look for or share a news story on the CBC or whatever, it will
Hmm.
say, sorry, this is not available in your country or whatever. And now
Yeah.
there's a big controversy about, is the government to blame? Is Facebook to blame? Does anyone care? I've seen people complain about this, that where am I going to get my news, as if these the CBC doesn't have its own website or
I
whatever.
know.
Like, so anyway, that's a
I
good,
know.
like we've said before about the your your main website is your home planet, and your social media things are your satellite sites that
Hmm.
draw people. That's a great example of that, because Facebook did something because they're allowed, it's their product, and it
Hmm.
just ruined the business model of all these people. But if you had your own website, and that's where you brought people, then you wouldn't be subject to that, right? You could do whatever you want on your website.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, this could be. I can see this news ban be both good and bad. I mean, because we all know that social media platforms are learn what you're interested in, and then they will only show you that type of content.
Yeah,
So, and everyone has complained about it for a long time, that it's the same on social media with the news items. If you're very far left, they'll only show you articles about the very far left. If you're very
yeah.
far right, they'll only show you articles about the very far right.
The bubble
So,
stuff. Yeah,
yeah. So now maybe if you have to go to bbc.com, maybe you'll be able to actually see news articles from both sides.
yeah,
But then again, that's also assuming that the news companies, newspapers, news websites are also um, like writing articles from both sides.
yeah. That aren't biased or whatever. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard in a podcast yesterday, I forget what it was, but someone was saying that it's not that they think that social media shouldn't show this stuff. They just think that they shouldn't use algorithms to determine which ones they show to you as a visitor, which is a good point. But I don't know how you'd ever, again, that's Facebook's business model. They want to show you more so that they keep you on there as long as possible. So why would they agree to that?
Yeah. See, yeah, and yes, I get that, and I've always heard that, but I'm also like the internet is so full of people who just want to fight. Just want to fight about. They want to be angry, and they want to get in fights and be trolls and just say mean things to other people. And so I'm always kind of surprised that you know the algorithms will only show them things that, oh, they're going to agree with. To me, I mean, obviously to make them feel better about, yes, obviously look at all the news articles, everybody agrees with what I think.
Yeah,
But I'm really kind of surprised that they aren't purposely shown the other articles from like the other viewpoint. Because yeah, people like doom scrolling, but people like being angry and getting into it. So
yeah.
I'm even surprised for that reason, that there's not more stories from both ends of the
Well,
political spectrum.
I mean, obviously, we don't know the ins and outs of these algorithms and what they're
Yeah.
doing, but I bet there's some aspect of that they're featuring in this. If we knew, if we could see behind the curtain. I watched the other day. You ever see the movie? It's on Netflix. The Social Dilemma, the
Mm,
documentary, where they do this
frightening.
like,
Really
uh,
good.
yeah, and they reenact. They have the guy from Mad Men. I forget his name, who's like reenacting being the brain of the algorithm as if it's a person, and he's like, oh,
Mhm.
their phones tell me that they're in the same room right now at school, so send him a notification about her, some photo she
Latest
posted on
post.
whatever.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's done really well and shows
Yeah.
how much they're controlling all of our lives.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's very true.
Anything you want to talk about today?
Oh, so because you are out of the city, maybe you don't know about this, but I think as of today, all TTC stations are accepting credit cards instead of Presto.
Oh, really? Like
Yeah,
just a tap though, right?
just a tap with
Nice.
no, like the old school cha-chunk. No,
No,
just
you have to
yeah,
like, yeah,
and
right,
sign it after.
right.
No, but yeah, just a tap. And apparently, I haven't done any research into this, but from what I've seen on Reddit, it's still honoring the 2 hour free transfers. And it
Cool.
is also so I didn't know this before, but apparently there's a Presto rate to get on the TTC and then a cash rate. For anybody listening overseas or even just not in Toronto, TTC is what we call our subway system. Subways and buses and streetcars and stuff. It's the Toronto Transit Commission, TTC.
Yeah.
So Presto, which was like this tap to pay card that we had before, like Presto would be one cost and cash would be another cost. So, and apparently credit card is the Presto price.
All right. Interesting. So should I use my credit card if I already have a Presto one, or is there any benefit to me doing that? Do you know?
I
Switching?
don't think that there's any benefit. I mean, for example, I've heard some people say that hooray, it's one less card to carry around, which I
Yeah.
get. I
Yeah.
see that. I personally,
Can I use
sorry,
my phone? Can I do it with my phone? Because
I
I
would
have my credit card on the
I would
phone.
assume so.
That would be
I
awesome.
did read something about Apple Pay. It didn't really work with Apple Pay yet,
Mm-hmm.
but because I think Apple Pay is like its own separate type of credit card. I don't know. But I heard that was coming like with the next iOS update or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as somebody who takes like meticulous records and tracking of like all of my expenses and things like that, I like just having like a once a month or whatever, $30 to Presto.
Yeah,
That's my
me too.
transit.
That's what I do.
I don't know that I want to necessarily go through and be like updating my transactions
Oh
in the
yeah, right.
software that I use and being like TTC,
Three
TTC. Oh
bucks.
my god, another TTC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I
That's a good
mean,
point.
yeah. And then also I don't know how it affects things like the UPX. So again, for those not in Toronto, there's the UPX is a train that will go from Union Station up to Pearson, and it stops
Right.
at a couple of TTC stations along the way, and you can like do a quick transfer and get like a discount if you like use the TTC and then get on the UPX. So I don't know if it affects that. I haven't looked into it a lot, but it's just like, so thanks Toronto, why would we, and because these Presto cards only came in a
Yeah.
handful of years ago.
Yeah.
So why did we spend all of this money for Presto if just like 5 years later we were gonna, start using tap credit cards?
And I'm sure if Sean were here, he'd have plenty to say about this because he lived in Korea for 10 years. And back then, their technology grid to this effect was way superior to even what we have today, from what I
Now,
understand. So he'd be
yeah.
like, we had this in Korea 30 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not offering any solutions. He's just telling us about another place that's better.
Maybe
Miss
he
you,
has a solution. Who
Sean.
knows? What time is it?
It is at 11:53.
Should we wrap it up?
I think so. The
Can
only
I
other
ask
thing
you
I
one more
wanted
thing?
to,
I have one more thing I want to ask you.
yeah, go.
Recently, I was working with someone else on a Git repo, and they explained that their workflow, and they work with a lot of developers, so it's not one person. So maybe that's the difference here. But they have a master branch that goes to production, right? They have a staging branch that they test stuff on. And they said that when I'm working on something for them on my local install, it would be a feature branch, right? With whatever I'm building.
Yeah.
I would push it to staging, test it on staging. And when it all looks good, I would push the feature from my local thing directly to production, like to master. Now, for me, when I do things, I go from feature to staging, and then when it looks good, I push
Staging
staging to
to,
production.
yeah.
Am I doing things in a way that's not standard? How do you do it?
Well, no, and again, though, I think that because it is just us, working individually on a project or just a few people, I mean, it makes sense to do that because, I have everything local. I put everything on staging so the client can see it because
Yeah.
the staging branch will deploy to the staging server. And then when the client has approved, I will do that merge request to put everything from staging into production. But yeah, I can totally see how it would make sense if you're working with a bigger team to put things on staging because a lot of people are putting things on staging. And just because
Yeah.
your task has been approved doesn't mean someone else's task has been approved.
Yeah, you're right.
So
That's
I mean,
right.
I get that, and yeah, it makes sense. Um,
Like, I
I
wonder
just,
if is there any reason for me to start doing that as an individual, going from feature to staging to test it? Yeah, it looks good, and then go back into my feature. Well, I'd be going into master and pulling in, merging in the feature directly instead of staging. Because I always think of staging as the version of the site that's going to be production. Like once everything's good, I pull the whole thing in. But you're right, of course, that if other people are doing stuff, you probably don't want to do that.
well, does that mean? Wait, though, does that mean that maybe I misunderstood you? Like there's just one staging branch and
Yeah.
everyone is pushing into the staging branch. And then when your
Excuse me.
task has been approved, you then just put your branch into the main?
I do I do a merge request from my feature branch to
Mm,
main or to master, whatever it's called, the
yeah.
production. So I bypass staging once it's been approved. Like, I think you're right. Like, when you the way you explained it, it makes sense because you don't want to be pushing staging into production if there's
Hmm.
things still going on in staging that aren't ready and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So I get it. I get that. But I wonder if I should adopt that workflow for my own stuff. I guess it doesn't matter because it's just me.
I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, if you were going to continue working with this client for an extended period of time, I mean, maybe start doing that for your own projects too, just so that you're in that mindset
Right, right.
that you've
Yeah.
got that. But then I
Mm-hmm.
guess when you're working on your own projects, does that mean that you're going to be creating a lot more feature branches
Yeah.
and then have to switch around and
Yeah, exactly.
put stuff in staging and then as the client's reviewing that, you can switch to a different local branch and be
Mm.
working on some other feature and then put that on staging and then the client has comments about the first one and you can on locally you can flip back
Yeah,
to that.
now that you mention it, I think I've run into that before where I've been working on something and it's not done
Mhm.
on staging and they want something else. So in that case, I would be pushing individual. It makes more sense to go from the feature directly in because I can push
Yeah.
them into production as they're ready rather
Yeah.
than waiting for staging to look right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that does make
interesting.
sense. You know what? I like everything that you're saying. And although it does sound like more work for some of the smaller projects, I think that maybe I might try to start adopting that methodology as well.
Well, and here one of the things that happened with these folks I was working with, we did this workflow, and then when we moved my thing into production didn't look right. It didn't look the way we expected. It didn't look
Hmm.
the way it did on staging, and we don't quite know why. We're troubleshooting, but it kind of makes sense that it might happen because you're going to inevitably get to a point where you're testing something on a staging branch,
Hmm.
but that doesn't represent what your production looks like.
Yeah.
If you're not always making sure that they're kind of mirrored, then of course you're going to end up testing it and it's, oh, wait a minute, it works, but this is not what production looks like. So when I push the production, maybe it won't work there.
Yeah. Oh
So
God, that almost sounds like you would need different branches for each feature and then push into a staging branch to get the client review and then push into a pre-production branch to
that's
make sure
exactly
that
what they
that
do.
the
That's
prod and pre-prod. Oh, so they actually do that?
well, they said that they sometimes do it for big stuff where they
Yeah.
make, I forget what they called it, but it was like basically a copy of what production looks like,
Mhm.
and then they put all of those features in it, make sure everything's still good, and then they merge that into production, which is kind of the workflow that I'm doing. But they do that sometimes. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, because
Karen and I
I mean,
just try to keep track.
that sounds like so much more work.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I guess, if you're on a big project with multiple developers, I get it.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway,
crazy. Awesome. So yeah. So hey, let's open. If any listeners or viewers or whatever are still hanging out, how do you work projects? How do you do with Git and the different branches? And are your solo projects different from group projects? And
and if you have
write some comments.
Right. If you have any thoughts about the value of websites as websites versus social media as well, weigh in there too.
I definitely would like to hear about that.
If you're Ben Croker, let me know if you heard me get into this chocolate. Last time he commented, he said I could hear my rattling of the paper. It's lunch bites. I'm eating a snack.
Eating a snack.
But this time I got him in a bowl, so it's not. Maybe you can still hear it.
But with the microphone right there, it's like crunch, crunch.
Problem.
That's all right. Anyway, it was nice seeing you. I'm very excited for you to be back in the city in a few weeks.
Too. Yeah, and by the time we do the next one, will I be? It's every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Yeah, right. We'll see what happens. Okay, all right. Bye,
Mike. Bye, everyone.